Hello, it's Matt Ritchie here. Another Hump Day hangout here. It's Wednesday, 6 o'clock West Coast time. Hope you're having an amazing start to your week, and we're halfway through it. Coming on the second half, just about ready for another weekend. So, boom, boom. All right, we got people rolling in here. Per usual, I give everyone one extra minute because I know how San Diego people love to show up a little bit late. That fashionably late thing, I think it's a California thing. So we're going to give them one more minute here and then we're going to get started. So I got the chat box over here. Go ahead and type anything you want and let me know that you can hear my voice. All right, cool. Well, let's get rolling, shall we? So, like I said, it's Hump Day Hangout, and today the topic is building a powerful and positive legacy. So, let's jump in right there. So, what is a legacy, and why is it important enough to care about? And then from there, how do we get started in creating our legacy? Awesome. We still got people rolling in here. Good to see you, Mike. Lisa, thank you for stopping in, joining us. Excited to have you guys. So if you're not familiar with me, if this is your first time on our Hangout, welcome. Excited to have you here. Like I said before, my name is Matt Ritchie, and I'm a lifestyle architect. And, among other things, I'm a lover of life, entrepreneur, mentor, world traveler, and a certified NLP master practitioner. And really all that means is that I'm here to serve you. I'm here to be your mentor, be your consultant, be your coach, whatever it is you need in that moment to help you build a life from the ground up. Build a life that you want to live, to really lay the foundation for a fun, loving, exciting, rewarding life. And that's what I do as a lifestyle architect. I work with people one-on-one and or within my Best Life Roadmap coaching program. So those of you who are new, welcome. Excited to have you, and I'm excited to get to know you a little better. So, legacy. For a long time, I didn't know what this word meant. This was just some word that was very, very big picture, and as a younger man, I didn't really think too much about the impact I was having on the world. I didn't think too much about what my legacy was, and I honestly didn't really think it was that important. How could I, one small person, have an impact in the world? How could I do something big? And so for the longest time, I just led my life by default. I didn't really put a whole lot of conscious effort into the life that I was building or the legacy I was leaving. And in turn, my first maybe 25 years of my life weren't all that impactful for anyone other than maybe myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I decided that I wanted to start shifting my mindset, the way I live, from a me to a we. And going from a me perspective to a we perspective is a pretty big shift. If anyone's gone through that, you can relate to what I'm speaking into. But a legacy, the Webster definition of a legacy is, I wrote it down here so I wouldn't forget it, something handed down from an ancestor or predecessor from the past, mainly speaking into money. And that's a very old, what I would call an old economy definition, an old school definition. Legacy for me is so much more than that, so much more than that. And for me, so I looked up the Webster Dictionary, and then I went with my own definition here. For me, a legacy, is a way of being. It's leaving by example for others to follow. Leaving the condition of the earth and its inhabitants better than you left them when you pass on in this physical world. and to really stand for something in the world, to leave a legacy of something. And that for me is a legacy, is to stand for something. So when we talk about legacy, a lot of names come to mind. And here's just a few small examples, but far right there we got John D. Rockefeller. If you're unfamiliar with him, he was one of the richest men of all time. He started and expanded Standard Oil, and he left a legacy to his family of about $340 billion, and that's a billion with a B. And at that point in time, that was an absurd amount of money. He was definitely the richest man alive while he was alive. But he also, he left a legacy of pushing the boundaries, pushing what was possible. And while looking back from our filter in our economy and our world today, we may think negative thoughts about him for whatever reason, whether it be monopolies and the expansion of oil and global warming and all those things that come through with that. At that point in time, he was just pushing the boundary of what was possible. His idea was to leave a legacy that people would remember, and a legacy of expansion and using oil as a catalyst, as an energy. And he did a really good job of that, of letting the world tap into an energy source that allowed the whole industrial revolution. It allowed cars to come about, it allowed airplanes to come about, it allowed so many luxuries that we consider today to be normal just weren't possible or weren't even thought about before John Rockefeller came along. So John Rockefeller definitely left a legacy after his death. And the guy on the far left there, you recognize him, Mr. Albert Einstein. Definitely another big legacy man. He obviously discovered relativity, the whole E equals mc squared. And what some people don't know, or maybe don't talk about as much, is his humanitarian spirit within wanting to push the boundaries of what was possible in science. They're wanting to go down to the molecular level and see what else was possible in science. And he really pushed the boundaries and moved forward technology in the world of nuclear physics. He was one of the creators of the Manhattan Project. He worked on that team that developed the atomic bomb. And once again, that could be seen as a negative thing, but on the flip side, it brought us a technology and a knowing of how to work on a molecular level that wasn't possible before Albert Einstein came into play. And right underneath Mr. Einstein there is none other than Martin Luther King Jr. This man needs very little introduction, but he was definitely a legacy builder, in that he was just a thought leader. He thought that all men should be treated equal, that all men, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their history, that they had the opportunity for freedom. They should have the same opportunities that every other man, woman, and child has on this earth. And being a leader of that civil rights movement, he was really able to push forward what was possible in the realm of equality, love for all people, and just really creating a world where people are equal and people see each other as equals. And it wasn't, unfortunately, within his lifetime that came to fruition. There we go, we got our first train of the day. And so MLK was definitely a good example of building a legacy that will be remembered and forever changing the world that we live in. So the last guy, the guy in the middle there, fan favorite, personal mentor of mine for the last 10 years, just studying him and what he's done. But the late great Steve Jobs, and he was a creative genius. He was responsible for not only bringing us the personal computer into your home, but he was responsible for that device that's probably laying beside you, or it's in your hand right now, the smartphone. And without his marketing and creative genius and intuitive thinking for following trends and really taking action on certain ideas when they were hot, we wouldn't necessarily have the things we have, or we wouldn't have had them in the timely manner that we had them. If he didn't pioneer forward in the early 80s and create the personal computer for everyone, maybe IBM takes over and it's mainly a business computer, and maybe it's not a personal computer until a decade later or 2 decades later, or maybe we're just now discovering it now. So Steve Jobs was definitely a thought leader, a creative genius, and above and beyond a legacy builder. So the next thing comes down to is, why should I care about my legacy? Well, if you haven't really caught on yet, the reason for building a legacy really has very little to do with you. And I'll say that again because sometimes we have a hard time taking ourselves out of that equation. But your legacy has everything and nothing to do with you. And when you start to think about the legacy that you want to leave in this world, you need to start thinking about how you want the world to look, how you want the world to act, how you want the world to be in 50, 100, 1,000 years from now. And when you really zoom out to that that's a really far out, big perspective, you can really start to grasp about what a legacy is. And this is one of my personal favorite topics because I'm a really big picture thinker. I love talking about generations from now and what's possible, and then also obviously I love taking that and grounding it into the present. But this thought about leaving a legacy is really not about me. It's not about you. It's about what we're here to create for the people that come after us, about what our grandchildren are going to experience, about what our grandchildren's grandchildren are going to experience. And the thought of legacy building, in my opinion, has been kind of lost on today's society. Or let me reframe that, it's been misinterpreted, in my opinion, as in, what can I accomplish in my lifetime so that my family has something to fall back on, or that my company lives forever and remembers me, or if you're Donald Trump, that how many buildings can I put my name on so no one forgets me? Well, if you do things that help shift the world in a positive way, if you do things that move humanity forward, no one is going to forget your name. And you won't need buildings or big flashy signs for people to remember your name. And I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan, but I think he comes from a place of scarcity where he feels that if he doesn't have his name on all these buildings, that he's just not going to be remembered. And he's probably right, because other than known for making money and being ridiculous and we'll just call it outlandish, no one really, not no one, but most people aren't going to remember Donald Trump 100 years from now, 200 years from now. And after his buildings crumble, maybe no one will remember his name. But Martin Luther King, he's going to be talked about for the foreseeable future, I would say. So when you talk about why should I care about my legacy, it really comes down to that big picture of what you want the world to look like in 100, 200, 1,000 years from now. And I know that's a really big thought to take on, but if we want to create a world where we're living beyond our now and living beyond our lifetime, then we have to start taking that in. And I think it's an old Chinese or one of those proverbs that talks about, the wisest of men plant trees whose shade they'll never sit in. And that's I remember hearing that at one point, and I was just like, whew, that's deep. Let that sit in for a second, I'm doing things now, I'm planting these seeds, I'm creating things that, I don't necessarily won't benefit from, I won't directly benefit from, but I'm creating a legacy, I'm creating something that future generations and future, world leaders can build upon. So when it comes to leaving your legacy, where should we start? How do we start leaving a legacy? How do we start to really create a life that impacts the world, that really, moves humanity forward in a positive direction? Well, if anyone's worked with me before or has listened to some of my other training videos, I talk a lot about baby steps. Because when you're sitting up here looking from 100,000 feet and really viewing the world from a 100-year level, it's really easy to get stopped and get pulled into the, what can I do and how can I start? Because you're so far removed from the action steps that it just seems almost impossible to start, and it seems too big to take on. And I felt like this for a long time. Personally, when I started thinking about my legacy, when I started thinking about how I wanted to leave the world, it really made me stop and wonder. And I would imagine my funeral, and I would think about all the people gathered for my funeral, and that person stepping up to give my eulogy, that person stepping up to say, whatever it is that the impression that I left on their life and the lives of many people. And when I came to that space and really stopped and reflected on my life up until that point, I got two things. I got a little bit sad, and I got a little bit angry. And the sadness was really from a place of, I haven't done the things that I want to do, or I haven't impacted the world that I know I'm capable of doing. And the angry part was a little bit, wanting to get started. It was more of an excited, angry energy, but it was coming from a place of wanting to do good. I felt angry at myself for not having done it. And then once I was able to release that and realize that, realizing where we're at in the present moment gives us the power to step into whatever it is we want to create for the future. So I want you to just imagine your funeral. All the people you've ever talked to, every single person that you've had an impact on, what would they say about you? How would you be remembered if you were to die tomorrow? Would people think fondly of you? Would they even think of you? Or are you just a side note in somebody else's biography? And I want you to really get present to how that feels, and just sit with that. Don't make it wrong. Don't want to change it. But I want you to just sit with that feeling of wherever you're at. And once you really get present to that feeling, I want you to also get present that this feeling's temporary. This feeling is based on past events, and that right here and now, today, you have a choice. You have a choice to start consciously creating a legacy where people will not only remember you, but think of you lovingly, endearingly, and have been grateful that you stepped onto this planet. With the billions of people currently on this planet and the billions of people that have lived before us, how many do you remember? And when we come from that place, I know for myself, creates a fire deep in my gut, deep in my stomach, of where do I start? How do I start creating my legacy today? And what will that look like? And for me, I've decided that since my book is being written, since my legacy is being left already, and maybe if my legacy were to end today, not too many people would know my name. Not too many people would be sad that I'm gone. But I want to start building a legacy where that changes. I want to start to live in a place where I can serve others and be in service to humanity, in service to all people, all living creatures within our planet, and know that the actions that I'm taking today are creating a positive ripple towards the future. They're creating positive ideas that people can build on in the future. And they'll know that I took a stand for something. The legacy that I want to leave is one of love, one of connecting people, and one of fun and adventure and excitement. Because regardless of what you believe, we're only here in this physical world for a finite period of time. Maybe that is 50 years, maybe it's 100 years. But either way, we only have a very finite amount of time to be here, to make an impact, to leave a legacy. And I think we have to start asking ourselves, what am I going to do with my time? What legacy am I going to leave? And I know that each and every one of you listening wants to leave a world better than you left it, wants to positively impact future generations, and wants to be remembered for doing good, for serving others, for creating something that was bigger than themselves, something that was beyond themselves, and a fact that people may not remember you, but they remember what idea you created. They'll remember what idea you stood for. And they'll be inspired to do the same. They'll be inspired to leave their own legacy of greatness, to be the hero of their own journey. Because like I said, our story is being written, whether we know it or not. Our legacy is being left with every interaction, with every word we speak, with everything we do and don't do in our life. And I think it's time to start stepping up and taking on the role of creator, of your hero, and really get present to what that looks like and where your stake in the ground lies. So with that said, I'm going to open it up for any questions, comments, thoughts, anything you want to put out there. I'm excited to hear from you. Oh, I had my chat box closed. Okay, there, chat box enabled. Do we have any questions? Anyone out there listening have a question about where they need to start, where they would like to get some clarity around something? Question about the legacy they're already leaving? Anything? I'm here to answer your questions for the next 5 minutes. Okay, first question here is, do I think it's different for a man leaving a legacy than a woman? That's a great question. Thank you. It's a really tough question, actually, because I feel that men and women are wired differently. You know, we're both humans, but we're like a different flavor of human. And the difference between a man and a woman, I don't feel like leaving a legacy differs. I feel like it differs. Let me back up a second. I feel like it differs from person to person, regardless of sex, regardless of man or woman or anything. So in order to leave a legacy as a woman, it may look different than as a man. It may be creating a family where you can instill amazing values and amazing leadership skills into those you bring into this world. Whereas a man, it may be starting a business, and that's very stereotypical, so that could easily be reversed. But it doesn't necessarily have to be, men do this, women do that. It's not about sex. It's about you and what drives you. So regardless if you're a man or a woman, your passions and your legacy are completely unique to you. Joel, you had a question? Go ahead and type it in there. And while we're waiting on that, I'm going to answer Jamie's. She wants to know, how do we make money, how do we make profit doing good things, and how can we align that with our life and our passions? And thank you for that question, Jamie. And this is a pretty deep question, but coming from an abundant mindset, the question isn't necessarily how can we make money. It's more about how can we serve others and how can we use our talents, skills, and uh, our greatness, our own unique greatness, to make an impact in the world. Because I believe that we all have a unique gift. We all have greatness within us. And when we tap into that, and we really get clear about what that is, and then we use that passion, that inner greatness to maybe cultivate a skill or um, you know whatever that looks like, and then you put that into the world. So you're gonna basically you want to be able to align with your passion, see where there's a need, see how that passion aligns with where the world has need, where there's pain in the world, where you can help solve some sort of need. And then where those two intersect, I believe, is your greatness, is where you can really impact the world the most. And this has come from my experience and everyone that I've worked with. The place that you've suffered the most, the place that you've had the most pain, that's the place, generally, where you can impact people the most. That's the place where you can step into your greatness because you've been there. You've seen the darkest of the dark in regards to that, and you can help people either through that situation or whatever that situation was for you. You can help them through that more easily. You can guide them through that so they don't have to suffer, so they don't have to feel as much pain as you felt. And for me, that was living small and not stepping into my greatness and feeling a life of not being enough my entire life. And when I realized that that was my greatest pain and that was my place of my most suffering, then I was able to reverse that and really step into a place of power where I could help others then come out of that limiting belief of that they're not enough, that they don't have greatness, and they can create a positive impact in the world. So Jamie, making money is just a byproduct of serving people. So whenever you find that passion that aligns with that need in the world, there's going to be a space for you to step into that and serve people. And then when you do that, you're going to, a byproduct of serving people is just making money. So thank you for that question. Okay, Joel, I'm on a path of leaving a legacy in a certain community, and depending on whom, get a lot of pushback, naysayers. How do you handle that? I'm just finishing reading the question here. Yeah, so thank you for that question, Joel. So you're on a path of leaving your legacy, and you're feeling that negative pushback, and I get that. And unfortunately, there's always going to be haters out there. Haters going to hate. And when you're on your path, when you're standing in your power, unfortunately, that intimidates a lot of people. Unfortunately, a lot of people are threatened by that, even if it's for doing good. Even if it's in a space where you are positively impacting people, doesn't matter. There's people that are going to be threatened by that. There's people who are going to be, it's more of a threatening way of life. You're threatening them on what's possible, and I saw you write in here about, that they feel that they can't be cured or they can't be helped. And those people are in victim mode. And when you're in victim mode, everything is external. All the blame, all the suffering, everything you do, you look externally. So they look for the strong people to single out, or the rich people. Oh, they have money, they must be bad. Oh, he's standing on stage, he's speaking lies, or whatever the story they've created is. So you really can't take that personally when you know in your heart and in your alignment with passion that what you're doing is not only impacting And I'm okay with that, a reflection of my experience. And in knowing that whatever someone says to me is merely a reflection of their experience. And they're not really hating on you, they're hating on themselves. So when you're speaking your truth and you're coming from a place of power and you're doing it in a place of serving others and impacting positively, you can't worry about, what people are going to think of your legacy. All right, you guys still with me? I see Joel wrote in here that he maybe couldn't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm going to move on here. Just for the sake of time, really quick, Kitty. I have clarity on what my legacy is and committed to making a difference alongside world changers. Great to be on this journey with you. Glad to be here with you as well, Kitty. Thank you for joining us. I know this is a couple weeks in a row you've been here. I'm excited to have you back. Have a great day. I think you're in Australia, so have a great Thursday. And you're welcome, Jamie. Could you hear me, Joel? Were you able to pick up what I was saying there? All right. Okay, cool. So I apologize if I was breaking up a little bit there. You might have had a connection issue. Are there any last questions before we shut it down? I know I want to be in integrity here and respect everyone's time. Okay, great. Well, in true form to my legacy and the legacy that I want to create, which is to see everyone in their own greatness, which is to see everyone step into their power and own their space of being a creator and having a positive impact in this world. Like I said, I do one-on-one coaching, and I also have a program called the Best Life Roadmap. And for those of you who probably aren't familiar with that, it's a 4-module training program that I've been taking people through for the last year, having amazing results, been having some really breakthrough performances from some of the students in it. And I want this to be more accessible. I want this to be available for everyone. So since you're in action coming here today, I want to give you an offer that I've never done before. This is my first time doing this. And if you see it in the right-hand column there, it's the Best Life Roadmap. If you click on it, for the people listening and my loyal followers only, I'm giving them access to this life-changing program for 30 days for only $1. And I had people ask me this before, when I was creating this offer, it's like, oh, why not just make it free? Well, in my experience, people don't value what they don't pay for. And I've been using a bunch of different modalities for testing this, and even if it's $1, people are highly more likely to use it and have impact from it as opposed to if it was free. So I would rather charge you $1 and have you use it than give it to you for free and have you never open it. So if it's worth $1 for you to check it out, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it in 30 days, we'll give you your $1 back and you can go on. But if you do like it, after 30 days, your 30-day trial is up and it's $19.99 after that. So click on the button. It says I'm interested in the bottom corner there if you can see it. Check it out. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Feel free to connect with me and ask me any questions you may have. But I really want everyone to have access to this program. It's a really life-changing program, and I'm excited for anyone new who's going to step into it and start owning their power and creating a legacy today. So thank you guys so much. Have an amazing Wednesday evening. I will see you back here next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific for another Hump Day Hangout. Have an amazing week, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.